So we've been in this series we've been calling Margin for the past couple of weeks. Anybody got anything out of that at all? Okay, so nobody. That's good. All right, that's what everybody likes to hear. A lot. Okay, so we got one. We got one. Hey, listen, we've been in this series we call in Margin because here's the thing. Let's get it all on the same page real quick on how we've been defining margin, and then I want to walk through kind of what that looks like for just a minute. So here's how we've been defining margin right here. Margin is the difference between what you and what you. And over this series, we've been seeing that most of the time we don't need all we have, right? And we use that the first week. I brought a suitcase up here, and I said there's only two kind of packers. There is a survivalist and a minimalist. Minimalists go, man, I'm going on a trip for 2 days. I'm taking enough clothes for 2 days. Survivalists, that's me. I'm going, man, I got a whole closet full of stuff. I'm going for 3 days. I'm packing for like 7.5. Like I'm going to be prepared for every situation that comes up. I'm going to pack my suitcase for cold weather, hot weather, the beach, right? The mountains. I'm just saying I'm packing everything I have in that suitcase, but most of the time, the way that we live our lives, we don't need all we have, right? Because what tends to happen is we pack this suitcase full of stuff, so much so that we can't put one more thing in without it just going, right? And you do the whole sitting down on it thing, zipping it up. You've been there. You know, if you're a survivalist, that's what happens. Like, you got to sit down on that thing, zip that thing up. And most of the time, we don't need all that we have, right? So what happens in our life and in our schedule and in our time and in our finances, like we saw last week, we live at the limit of our lives, so much so that we get to a point that we don't really even enjoy the life that we have to live. And in an effort to get the most out of life, we tend to sometimes lose control of our life, right? So we've been talking about how to create margin in those areas and to live with margin, because life is better with margin. Thank you. Yes. See, that's how this works. That's how it works. Not a one-way street, two-way street. So you got something cool when you came in. Go ahead and take this out. If you didn't get a cool little green balloon, all I want you to do is raise your hand up real quick. We're going to have somebody in the back. There's a bucket back here to get it. If you didn't get a cool little green balloon, keep your hand up, keep your hand up, keep your hand up, keep your hand up. It's coming your way, coming your way, coming your way. Go ahead and stretch them out. Stretch them out. You know you can't blow into a brand new balloon. Like, it ain't your cheeks will pop. Like, your cheeks will pop from that. Now I will go ahead and say some of these have been pre-blown for you. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. That did not happen. That didn't happen. Some of you guys just went, I ain't coming back to this church. Weird people. That may be true, but they're not pre-blown. I promise. I promise. So I want to illustrate what we've been talking about to you in a really, really cool way. Because how many of you know that most of the time as adults you forget to have fun? I'm just saying. As adults, most of the time you forget to have fun. So how about a little fun? Okay, I mean, come on now. Let's go. Let's go. We're going to have a little fun. So go ahead and get your thing stretched out. Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to read off a couple of statements, right? And some of them are stressful. And if in the past week, in the past 2 weeks, in the past month, you felt this way, all I want you to do, when you say, yep, that's me, I want you to go and hold it, right? And hold it. And then when I read the other one, you're like, yep, that's me too, just and this, right? So get ready, get prepared, because I'm pretty sure this first one is you, because I live in the same town you live in. How many of you in the past week or two, you've been stuck at a red light with nobody coming in the other direction, and it like ticked you off? I'm just saying, I've already got mine blown up right there. If that was you, just blow up a little bit if that's you. All right, here's the next one. How many of you at some point over the past week, 2 weeks, you snapped at a friend or family member? Okay, all right. And didn't feel bad about it? Right? Didn't feel bad about it. How many of you got an unexpected bill in the mail? Right? Unexpected bill. How many of you Don't get enough sleep at night because of the stuff that are on your mind. Keep blowing if that's you. Keep blowing. Okay, you're stressed out because you're an Auburn fan. Keep blowing. Come on. Oh, whoa, that just happened. That just happened. Hey, I said I was going to create margin and not talk about it last week. I didn't say anything about this is Iron Bowl week, man. It's on. It's like game on. Game on. So if you're a Bama fan, go ahead and give one blow real quick. Yeah, you ain't never been nothing but a winner. That's right. That's right. That's right. How about this one? Your car's making a funny sound, but you ain't got enough money to pay for it to get fixed, so you just turn the radio up. That's mine. If you ride with me, you'll hear it. I'm just telling you. I'm just telling you. All right, on some level, you're worried about money. Okay, now look around, because if your neighbor didn't blow up a balloon, all you got to do is go, hey, can I have some? See, I'm just helping you out, man. I'm just helping you out. How many of you are worried about something you can't control? How many of you are worried that you worry too much? How many of you are worried that your neighbor's balloon is about to pop? Right? See? I'm telling you. Yeah, hold them up real quick. All right, just look around the room and see how stressed out everybody is. I'm just saying. So if you came this morning, you're at a stressed out place, you're stressed, you're going, man, I just need something. Listen, you're in a whole church full of stressed out people. So I'm finna to tell you how to create some margin in your life. Are you ready? It's just simple. It's simple. In the famous words of Elsa, you just got to let it go. Man, you just got to let it go. So on the count of three, that's exactly what I was about to get. On the count of three, all I want you to do is just let your balloon go. Okay? And you're like, man, that's gross. Spit's going to fly. Yes, it will. It will be grossly awesome. I'm telling you, it's going to be great. So on the count of three, you ready? 1, 2, 3. That's awesome. Whoever that was. You got a little bit there. Yeah. Yeah, man. Don't you wish it was that easy? To like, man, I'm stressed out. I'm worried about all this stuff. My life's packed to the limit. I just need a break. Don't you wish it was that easy just to go, and then all your worries and all your stress goes and lands in somebody else's lap? Like, I love that. I wish it was that easy. But we've been talking about how to create margin in your lives, because here's kind of what we've been illustrating the whole time, is that at some point, if you live your life at the limit, right? And every one of us has limits. Every single one of us has limits. And this balloon has a limit, right? And you may be living life going, okay, well, I need this in my schedule. I need to do that. We need to do this over here. We got to go pay for Christmas, right? Good gracious alive. We got to pay for Christmas. So it's getting a little tense at the house because it's all about money, because your pocketbook starts to look something like this. And if you got a flat tire, you ain't got enough money to pay for it. You know what I'm saying? Because you've maxed yourself out. You've lived life at the limit. And when you live life at a limit for too much time, you get to a place. See, some of you guys were asleep. I just woke you up. But you get to a place where your life explodes and it falls apart. So we've been talking about how to create margin in those areas. We talked about how to create margin in your schedule and in your time. We talked about how to do that. We talked about how to create margin in your finances. And today I want to talk to you about how to create margin in your relationships. Okay, in your relationships with each other, with husband, with wife, with kids, with neighbors, with friends. How to create margin in your relationships. And here's the thing, if you don't get anything else out of today, and if you're a note taker, go ahead and get ready because it's coming. If you don't get anything else out of today, here's what I want you to know. Here's what I want you to get right here. Relationships thrive when there's what? But relationships when you live life at your limits. Relationships thrive when there's margin created and space available in your relationships. But relationships die when there is no margin, when you live at your limits. So here's what I want to do today. Today's going to be a little bit different. I want to share my margin story with you. Okay, because here's what I don't want to happen. I don't want for us to stand up here for 4 weeks and to talk about how to create margin and act like everybody's got it all together and all this stuff. Like I don't want you to feel like that. I don't want you to get from me each and every week that here's how you create margin and it's easy. You just got to go out and do it, because here's the thing, it ain't easy, right? It's not easy. So what I want you to see today is life is hard sometimes, right? Life's hard sometimes, and it's not always easy to live a life that God wants you to live. So I want to share my story with you, because here's what I don't want you to leave in here today going, well, you know what, that pastor was way up here. Like, he can do that. He can live that life. But there's no way I can live that life, because he's on a pedestal. No, here's the deal. I live the same life that you live, right? And I want to take you back about a year. For some of you, this may bore you, but just get over it. It's all right. It'll be all right. And take you back about a year. We were a little bit over a year. We were student pastors at a church in Haynesville, Louisiana, a little bitty town. I mean, Podunk. Can you say Podunk? That was. That's in the dictionary as Haynesville. That's what it means. But it was good, man. Life was really, really good. They paid me a whole bunch of money, and I'm just like not even joking. They paid me a whole bunch of money to be a student pastor, and I lived in a town that didn't cost any money to live in. So I was rolling. Let's create some margin. All right, just go move to Haynesville. That creates you some margin right there. But we were doing really, really well, and it was going well. And my job, I'm just going to be honest, it was cake, man. It was really cake. You just had to go to kids' basketball games and football games, and every once in a while they would want to talk to you about something. That probably didn't happen most of the time, but every once in a while they would bring something to you, and it would be a little heavy, but you just went on with it, and you tried to teach people how to just love Jesus. But it was cake. It was really, really good. And right in that time we had Laurel, which is my daughter. She's 2.5 now and going on 30, I think. How many of you got 2.5, 3, 4-year-olds? Yeah. God bless you. God bless you. You need it. You need it. And then some of you are like, just wait till they get to teenagers. Yeah. Okay, let me figure that out on my own. No, we had Laurel when we were there, and what was so cool is I went into work at 8, and I would get off at 12 for lunch, and I'd have an hour break, and I live like a mile from the church. So I would get off for lunch, and I would go back home to Cheyenne, and I would go back home to Laurel, and I would eat lunch with them. And then I would leave at 1, and I'd go back to work, and I'd get off at 4. That was awesome. I mean, that was really, really, and it was good for us as a family, because you just had a brand new baby. You're just learning how to be parents. You're just learning how to like still be friends after this alien came out of you. You know what? You're trying to do all of that stuff, and it was good. We had a lot of time to kind of work that stuff out. But what happened is we got an opportunity. We knew we wanted to start a church and plant a church. We just didn't know how, when, or where. So we got an opportunity to do an internship with a church plant. And I'll just tell you up front that it wasn't a paid internship. Okay, so we left the cush job in Haynesville to Bossier City, which was more expensive to live in. I'm just telling you, way more expensive to live in. And we left there for that city for no job and for no place to live. Can you say stressed out and worried? I mean, like, I'm taking my family to another city and I ain't got a job or a place to live. That's kind of a big deal. Like, you should probably have that lined up. But a couple days into that, we found a job, we found a place to live, everything was going good. But here's the problem, is that we were used to a lifestyle, right? That was really, really good. You got to spend a whole lot of time with everybody. You just went to work 6:30. At 8, got off at 4, and now I'm going into work at 6:30. I'm working construction. Who hired me to do that? Like, I don't even know what a hammer looks like. So, and you hired me to do that, but that was cool. So I did light construction work, but I went in at 6:30 in the mornings, and I had like a 30-minute lunch, and then you were with the crew all day. Like, you didn't have enough time to go back and spend with Cheyenne and Laurel for lunch. And then I didn't get off until 5 or 5:30, and then here's the thing. Then there was the internship, right? Then there was the meeting with the leadership team, and I was like, I got to be there. Like, I got to figure out how to do this. Like, I got to meet with them, and I got to meet with them over there. And then the pastor wants to talk to you a little bit about what you will expect and what you will experience when you start a church, when you plant a church. So I was going into work at 6:30. I was getting off at 5:30, and then I had like 30 minutes to an hour to eat dinner with Cheyenne and Laurel, and then it was off to a meeting. And then it didn't get over sometimes till 8:30 at night, and I wouldn't be able to be at home to tuck Laurel in and to say night prayers and all that stuff like that. And man, life was different. It was different. And you're like, well, that's my life. That's my life right now. You lived my life. But here's the thing. We had this conversation at right around that point. A Because here's what I love about my wife. My wife just tells you when something's wrong. Like, I'm a tell me what's wrong and let me fix it kind of guy. Like, how many dudes do I have like that? Tell me what's wrong and then I'll fix it. Yeah, that's almost every one of you. That's because you're a dude. That's how you're wired. So I'm like, you tell me what's wrong and then let's fix it. And I love her for that because she'll tell me everything. Like everything. She lets me know everything. And she came to me and she was like, I'm not liking what's going on right now. And it started this conversation. And how many of you have ever had hard conversations if you're married? Yeah, you had hard conversations with your husband, with your wife. This was a hard conversation. And she gets to a place and she's, no, I'm not liking what's going on and what you're doing. Because here's the thing. Like, I'm just now learning how to be a mom to a person who walks. And she's running everywhere. And she's running me ragged. And then I got to go get groceries. And then I got to take her with me. And then she's running and hiding underneath the racks of clothes. And then I can't get them out. And then they call me from the front going, whoever's got this little girl with pigtail. You know, I mean, that's the life she was living. And she was going, well, and then I got to get home. And then I clean the house. And then I got to get supper ready for you. And then I don't really even know sometimes when you need supper ready. And then, like, I don't know if you have 30 minutes to eat or an hour to eat. So that determines what you make for supper, right? If you got 30 minutes or an hour to eat. So we're going through this thing. And she says, and I'm just done. And I would come home and she would be worn out. And I would feel like it was my fault. So it sparked a question in our life and in our relationship. And I'm pretty sure this was the best conversation ever. And this was the best decision I've ever made as a husband and as a leader of a church. This is the best decision, discussion, problem thing that we solved and said, this is how we're going to handle that. This was it. And this is the question that I asked her right here. Go ahead and throw that up there. What does ideal look like? Because she's stressing out. Like, she's living a life that is pretty much as a single parent because I'm not there half the time. And then I look at her and I go, okay, listen, what's ideal? What does ideal look like? Ideally, what does my schedule look like? If you could set my schedule, what would it look like? What will my schedule look like? I don't know if it's attainable. I don't know if it's doable. I don't know if it's feasible. I don't know if we can work that around, but I at least need to know what you're thinking, because here's the thing. How many of you know when it gets to a tense place and things starts getting a little bit tense in your relationship, y'all start dancing around what each other thinks, right? I don't really want to tell him that because if I tell him that, he'll take it this way, and I don't really want to tell her that. And if she finds out what I'm thinking, I don't know how she'll take it. And you get to this place where you're just kind of dancing around each other's thoughts and each other's things. And I was like, I don't know if I can fix this. I don't know if it's doable, but I at least need to know what you're thinking. So what does ideal look like to you? And she said, if you could come home at 4, that'd be great. Right? You come home at 4 and you don't go to every single meeting with the church. That would be awesome. That would be awesome. If you could come home at 4. Now here's the thing. I'll tell you what sparked that in just a second and what we did, but I want to address that tension just a minute. Because in real life, every marriage has some tension. Mine included. Right? And you get to a place where you're trying to figure out how to do this thing. You've never done it before. Right? I've only been married to Cheyenne, right? I don't know what it's going to be like to be married to Cheyenne 3 years from now. I'm just trying to figure stuff out. So I'm getting to this place, and I'm trying to work on my tension, and here's what I know about the tension. The tension comes when you give somebody else, whether that's your husband, whether it's your wife, or whether it's your kids, a responsibility that you should carry. And I know that probably hit a little bit, but I'm just going to be blunt and honest. When you give a responsibility, when you hand your responsibility off to a husband, a wife, or a kid, it's like handing them a weight. And when they take that weight, they're weighed down by something that they shouldn't even be weighed down with. Because here's what Cheyenne was having to do. Cheyenne was having to be mom. Cheyenne was having to be nurse, because we just started walking, right, with the coffee table. I'm just saying, they're not good for people who are just starting to walk. So she had to be nurse. Then she had to be chef. And then she had to be chauffeur. And then she had to be daddy. She had to be dad. Because I wasn't there at night to tuck Laurel into bed, so now Cheyenne has to be mom and she has to be dad, and she took on a responsibility that I should have carried. And here's the truth of the matter. Life gets that way, right? There's days that are like that. There's weeks that are like that. There's months, there's seasons that are like that. When you as a parent, and I'm just talking to parents for just a second, and as you as a parent, there's going to be seasons, there's going to be times in your life where you have to have a real conversation with your spouse or with your kids and go, you know what, I'm just going to have to work a little bit more. Right? This week, this month, it's just going to take a little bit more out of me. And there's going to be times for that. And there's going to be seasons for that. Right? And it's not a big deal. Nothing's wrong with trying to work to get to the next promotion. Like, nothing's wrong with that. Like, nothing's wrong with trying to make a better life for yourself and for your family. Nothing's wrong with trying to make progress. Nothing's wrong with trying to work and go to every church meeting so that you'll know how to start a church when it gets time for. Nothing's wrong with that, but I tell you what's wrong with that is when we choose to cheat what is most important over something that is secondary in our lives. And when we dish a responsibility off, when we dish a weight off to our husband or wife or our kids, when we dish that off, hey, listen, Daddy won't be at your ball game tonight. I gotta work. But then next week it's the same thing. And then next week it's the same thing. And then the next month it's the same thing. See, it's not bad to try to strive and to try to work and to try to get the best life possible that you can get. But in our attempt to get the most out of life, we tend to lose control of our life. And the problem with it is when we hand off a weight or responsibility to somebody that it's not theirs to carry, and then we walk away and we never come back and get it. That's when the tension happens. And that's when stress happens. And that's when relationships die. Because relationships thrive when there is what? Margin. But relationships die when you live life at your limits. So what does ideal look like? And she said, you just need to come home at 4. You need to come home at 4 and not go to as many of those meetings. Now, here's my deal with that. You know what we moved here for, right? I'm just giving you a glimpse into my life for a minute. You know what we moved here for. You knew that it was going to be a struggle. You knew that I was going to have to do all that stuff. You knew that was going to happen. How many of you have been there before? When something gets pushed up to you and you know it's your fault, but you go, hold on, listen, no, you knew this. And you try to dish the responsibility off on somebody that you knew was actually yours to carry. And you know, I had a decision to make. Was I going to come home at 4? Was I not going to go to all those meetings? Because here's the thing, what if I don't go to those meetings? Like, what would they think about me? Like, what will I learn? I need to be there. I need to be a part of that, right? What does that entail? And I had a decision to make. And really, to be honest with you, that some of that decision was hard and it was difficult. And it revolved around a lot of what I just said. It revolved around a lot of fear. What if I don't do that? What if I don't strive to get to that next promotion? What if I don't do that next thing? What if I can't get my family in this class because I'm in this class? You see what I'm saying? Because I need to work. I need to go. I need to get us up here. And we get afraid because what if? What if I don't? What if I can't do that? What if I can't do this? What if I can't give my kids this? And we get wrapped up in this fear. And part of that decision that was I going to come home at 4 and not go to those meetings, they were rooted in fear. And I was sitting there going, man, this is hard. But some of that decision was easy. And it comes back to the same thing that I tell you guys every week. Man, I believe in this Jesus guy. I believe that he was the Son of God. I believe that he came and lived a life on the earth. And I believe that he died on the cross for our sins. God could give us a relationship with God the Father. And I believe that he died and then he was buried, but he rose on the 3rd day. And then I believe that there were a bunch of people that saw him after he rose from the dead. And a bunch of these people started writing accounts of what they saw. And then what we have in the New Testament is some of those accounts. And I knew what it said. And I believed it. But now all of a sudden I had a whole new application process that was sitting right there in front of me. What are you going to do with this? What are you going to do with it? So what's ideal look like? Come home at 4 and don't go to the meetings. And I said, I got to do it. Like, I got to create some margin. I've got to create some margin in our relationship because I've seen enough people especially pastors. I've seen enough people who live life to the limit, and after a long time of living life at a limit, it started looking like this. They left. They lost everything that was important. And I said, I can't have that. I can't have that. So, what do you do with that? Here's what you do with that. This is what sparked me right here. Ephesians 5:21. Submit to what? Come on, submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. Submit to. Submit to means I got to place myself under. Right? Submit means I gotta put your deal before my deal. Right? Submit means I gotta put what Cheyenne needs and what Cheyenne wants. Since I'm in a marriage relationship with her, I gotta put her above my job. And I gotta put her above my internship. And I gotta put her above my career, which is essentially you, the local church. And if you stay here forever, you'll call me one night and you'll say, I need your help. And I'm going to be like, I'm on a date. Now, I'm just being honest with you. I'm on a date with my wife. I'll get somebody else to come hang out. Because here's the deal. I can't put you, I can't put my job, I can't put my promotion, I can't put what I want, I can't put anything above that lady back there. I can't do it. Because God didn't call me to submit to a job. God didn't call me to submit to a career. God called me to submit to a person, submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. And it wasn't even like I didn't like Cheyenne. Like, it wasn't even like I had to submit to her out of reverence for, well, I don't really like Cheyenne, but I got to submit because I like Christ, and I got to submit to one another out of reverence for who? No, man, I loved her. I loved her. And it wasn't like I had to do that out of reverence for Christ. It was like I needed to do that because Jesus told me to do that. And then this is an introduction, and I'm going to talk to husbands because here's the thing. You look around our society, we need more godly men. We need more godly husbands. We need more people, men that will be willing to go, I'm going to take a stand for my family. I'm going to do whatever I can to make this work. I'm going to work, but then I'm going to take time off and I'm going to spend it with the people that matter most to me. So I'm going to talk to men. So this next verse, this is a lead up to what he's telling me as a husband. And when I read this, I was like, okay, I've got to create some margin. Check this out. Look at Ephesians 5:25. Husbands, that's you. Bold and underline is you. Okay, so let's do bold and underline. That's you. Husbands, your wives, just as Christ, the church, and himself up for her. Husbands, love your wives. How do I love my wife? Love your wife like Christ loved the church, not how you think she should be loved. Yeah, I figured it would be quiet on that one. I figured. Love your wives like Christ loved the church, not how you think. Cheyenne, you signed up for this. Like, we talked about this. We talked about leaving Haynesville, going on an internship. We talked about it not being paid. We talked about I was going to have to spend some time working. Then I was going to have to spend some time in the internship. We talked about it being a season of our lives. You should just get over it. No, that's not what it says. Right? Husbands, love your wives like Christ loved the church, not how you think she should be loved. And how did Christ love the church? It says it right there. Tell me, how did Christ love the church? He gave himself for her. He gave himself up for her. So, Eric, love your wife. How? Like Christ loved the church. How do you do that? How do you love her like Christ loved the church? Then you got to give up some stuff for her. You got to give up some time for her. You got to give up some meetings for her. You got to give up some ambition for her. You got to give up some drive for her. Because you got to love your wife like Christ loved the what? Church. And Christ loved the church so much that he died for it. And I'm sitting there going, man, it's just got to happen. Like I've got to create some margin. So I came home at 4. And I stopped going to all the leadership meetings. And even today, like I'll work a job during the week. So I got to work a job to make enough money to provide for my family. And then I got to have enough time to do everything that I need to do here, but then I got to have enough time to spend with her. So here's what you'll see in my life. I get off at 4. I get off at 4. I'm at home most of the time by 4:30. And most of the time I don't go to every meeting. Like you get a couple of people, especially the worship team, together and they start working on Sundays. Guess who ain't there? I'm not there. Because they can handle that. They can handle that. Let me just throw a punch real quick. Are you good? Like not physically. Like I'm not going to ask you one by one to come up here. Although that would be funny. And if anybody wants to do that, if you want to volunteer, we can make that happen. But here, I'm going to throw a punch at you. Here's the thing. You're not that important. I'm not that important. And here's what I realized in the moment. I only have 2 unique roles right now. In this season of my life, I only have 2 unique roles. I'm not that important that I have 50 billion unique roles. I have 2 unique roles. And the first is husband to Cheyenne. And the second is father to my kids. Everything else, that's not unique. Like this isn't unique. At some point, somebody else will do this because I'm not here to do it. This isn't unique. I only have 2 unique roles. First, husband to Cheyenne. Okay, and hopefully only, but for sure first, husband to Cheyenne. She can go get another one, but she can't get another first. You know what I'm saying? Come on. Come on. So first, husband to Cheyenne. And then second, dad and father to my kids. Everything else is secondary. So here's the thing. Go to the next one real quick. Here's my heart for you. And if you're a note taker, I want you to take notes on this, and I want you to write it down. Because I think if we could wrap our minds around this right here, I thought it would be a great way to end a great message series on how to create margin and how to create space in your life. If you just get this, you can start doing a little something about it. Don't trade what's unique. I only have what? 2 unique roles. And what are they? Husband to Cheyenne and father to my kids. Right? And I got kids. You only see one of them, but the other one's baking. It's cooking. A little bit longer. He's going to be here, and then it's going to be 2 guys on 2 girls. We're going to eliminate them. It's just going to be awesome. You have no chance whatsoever. But don't trade what's unique to you for something somebody else will do. Somebody else is going to do that job that you got right now. Somebody else is going to do it later. Like you're not, like the world doesn't stop spinning when you don't go to work. Right? I mean, people do what you do. People will do what you do. Like you only have a couple of unique roles. And why trade what's unique to you for something somebody else will do? So I've got to love my wife like Christ loved the church. And Christ loved the church so much that he gave himself up for her. And that's how I got to live. That's how I got to live because that's how Jesus lived. And he said, I only have really 2 unique roles, right? Number 1, Son of God. It's kind of a big deal, by the way, right? And number 2, coming to this earth so I could take care of what you can't take care of. And so I could pay what you can't pay. And so that I could go to the cross and I could die on the cross and I could die for your sins so that you could have a relationship with God, my dad. So that you could have a relationship. I got 2 roles. And what do you see Jesus living out? I'm the Son of God, and I'm here for a purpose. And I'm going to do whatever I can to fulfill that purpose, and I'm not going to get sidetracked, and I'm not going to trade what's unique to me for something that somebody else can do. And if we took that and we believed that, I bet it would change your schedule. I bet it would change your finances. I bet it would change your relationships. Don't trade what's unique to you for something that somebody else will do. So here's what I know, and I'm going to close with this. You can go down to the next one. After talking with so many people who haven't created any kind of margin in their life, okay, and I'm just going to be transparent. I'm not talking about seeing this from a distance. I'm talking about seeing this up close and personal, from seeing somebody put their job and their position and specifically the church above their family. I've seen what it does to a family. I've seen what it does to kids. I've seen those kids run out of church and go, I'm never going back, because he was married to the church and he wasn't married to my mom, and he didn't love us. And that's hard. And you know what? Here's the deal. When the balloon pops, it's hard to put it back together. And when you live life at a limit for so long, whether that's in your scheduling, whether it's in your relationships, or whether it's in your finances, when one day it pops, it's going to be hard to put it back together. And I've seen people live through this stuff, and I said, there is no way. When we had that hard conversation, when we had that tense moment, when it was like you had a conversation and then you walked away from it, and it was like you're walking on eggshells. You know how that goes. It's like you got to watch everything you say, or it's going to be taken. Or when you had that whole deal, during that moment, I said, there's no way that I'm trading what's unique to me for something that somebody else would do. I'd seen it enough. There's no way. I didn't want to look back on my life and go, man, what if? What if? Because you only get one shot at your 20s, right? We talked about this. You only get one shot at your 30s. You only get maybe a couple times you only get a couple of times at your 40s, right? You only get one time at your 50s. You only get one time to live this life. And I sat back and I said, there's no way that I'm going to trade what's unique to me for something that somebody else can do. There's no way that I'm going to trade that. And I don't want you to trade it either. So here's the thing. As we close the whole message series with this, I don't want you to look back and go, man, what if? Like, what if I would have created some margin in my scheduling? Like, what if I would have created some margin in my finances? What if I would have created some margin in my relationships? What if I would have trusted God with everything instead of getting to the place of going, no, I'm going to live my life at my limits, and I'm going to strive to get whatever I can get, and I'm going to do whatever I have to do to get there, and then get to the end of your life like we talked about a couple weeks ago, and you're going to look back and you're going to go, man, I should have done things a little bit different. So with all that in mind, what if? What if we, as a church, what if we, as families, what if we as individuals in the church got to the place from now on that we were going to get to there and go, I'm not trading what's unique to me for what somebody else can do. I'm not going to trade what's unique to me for what somebody else can do. I'm just not going to trade it. And you spent time doing the 1 or 2 or 3 unique things that God put you here to do. What would happen if we did that? You know, here, I'm that guy. I'm that guy who actually believes if we got a whole church going, you know what, I'm going to create some margin, and I'm going to go after what God created me to do, whether that's husband, wife, and then whatever purpose He placed in my heart, I'm going to go after that. And I'm that person who actually believes that if we had a group of people that would decide to do that, then we could change the city of Enterprise. Like, I believe that. I believe that. And then our heart and our goal as a church, if you didn't know this, was to plant another church out of this one. Like, we want to send somebody else out to start another church somewhere else. Same state, same country, different country, whatever. We want to start another church somewhere else, and we just want it to keep going and going and going. And by the time you know it, you're going to have a group of people who said, you know what? At the very beginning of the church, we talked about this message, talking about how to create margin in your life, and I applaud that. I applaud that. And I gave God everything. Like, I didn't just hold something saying, no, I'm not. I gave Him everything. And then you get to a place where you're a part of what's going on in the city of Enterprise. You're a part of what's going on in the state of Alabama. And then you're a part of what's going on all over the nation. All over the nation. Here's a tidbit of information real quick. Over the past 2 months, we've given over $1,200 back to church planting. Like, you're already affecting people's lives everywhere else. Like, it's not just here. But we've got to create margin in our lives to get to the place that we go, you know what? Listen, I have 2 unique roles, right? God put me here for 2 unique things. It's to be a husband and it's to be a dad. And then He put a purpose and a passion in my heart, and I want to do exactly what He put in my heart. And when we do that, when we get a group of people that does that, it's going to change the whole city of Enterprise. That's what I believe. That's what I believe. And that's what we see happening already. It's what we see happening. 10 weeks, 18 people have accepted Christ as their Savior. Come on, I thought I was going to get something out of that. 10 weeks, 18 people have accepted Christ. 18 people have accepted Christ. 13 people got baptized. What? That's awesome. Then you got people going through next steps, and they're getting hooked up, and they're getting hooked up with a team. They're getting hooked up with a group of people, and they're coming in, and they're serving, and they're setting all this up, and they're doing it for you. And then they're doing it for people who aren't even here yet. Because there's people out there that are going to be in here that are going to be giving and serving and going and doing, and they're going to be one of those people that we send out to plant another church somewhere else. They're out there. They may not be here yet, but we're going to do it. Right? It's going to happen. Like, I believe that is going to happen, but we can't get to that place until we go, you know what, God, I'm going to take a step back. And I want you to teach me how to create some margin in my life, how not to live at my limits. Because I know when I live at my limits, after a certain point and after a continued period of time of living at my limits, what's going to happen to your life? It's going to pop. It's going to pop. And it's hard to put it back together. So God, I'm going to trust you in this moment of creating margin, whatever margin that is that you create in your life. I'm going to trust you in that, and I'm going to allow you to start guiding my steps and how I live my life, how I schedule my life, how I manage my finances, how I get to the place of putting margin in our relationship. I'm going to trust you to do that. I'm going to trust you to do that. Let me pray for you.